A few months have passed since Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024's release. What are the learnings that you're taking away from the launch and the following months?
I think the learnings are that there's infrastructure learnings, having 1 billion downloads in a day is a lot. And we had never anticipated the 3 days of launch issues that we ran into. That is now understood how we need to do this in the future. That learning has been shared across our broader organization because everybody was very curious what happened because nobody saw this coming, of course. And so that's good. I think this is it's kind of in a world where large games are increasingly using the cloud. I think there's just some learnings that we need to go acknowledge that we need to have, and this is one of those. Infrastructure is something that we need. That what they call the surface of the data is actually important. So lesson learned, and I think we're feeling comfortable now of understanding that. The other thing is that what we then looked into is like there's obviously feedback, lots of feedback on bugs, issues that people ran into. And while we were aware that we had some bugs, of course, the amount is also surprising. Because the team, I think I said that even publicly, the team had fixed like 30,000 something bugs before launch, which is a lot for any game. I've been doing this for a long, long time. I don't think we've ever had that many, but I think the issue is that the games are just getting bigger and bigger and bigger. Our game is the entire world. When you look at how many bugs there can be, it's near infinite, right? So I think the learning is we can't, even with the most dedicated test team that is doing their very best, it's just not possible to test it all. And I've committed myself to never doing this again, but doing this only with flighting. If you ask me, I want to have a year of flighting before we do. And I think I said that somewhere. Like if we do another sim at one point, I think we're going to need to be done a year before and throw it out to the public and really get feedback and harden it because there's too many specific setups that are that are there's not testable for us. We don't have every configuration, for example, for every single thing. So flighting is the solution, has to be the solution.
At this point, I think it's safe to say that Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024 is the most complex entertainment software on the market. And considering all the innovation it brings, it's not unfair to say that some initial pains are understandable.
I appreciate that you say that. I mean, the team is obviously, you know, it's obviously hard for the team, right? We've worked really hard to get the best possible sim made, and I think people saw it at the global preview event even. And then having that many issues is it's just unfortunate, specifically the launch issues, which the team really had nothing to do with those at all. And then the bugs, as I said, we knew that we knew we had some, but the degree was larger. And I would say the other thing I've learned, I thought it was super clever, and in many ways I still very much celebrate this, that we've worked with, I think, 22 or 23 external companies, Ubaid's company and iniBuilds being one of the larger ones. And it's hard it's kind of difficult already to orchestrate a game where you have one big dev team making something. In this particular case, with 20 something dev teams, it's just it became really difficult. But so I think the quality went way up. For example, we could have never achieved what we achieved without our iniBuilds making some awesome planes. But they are also on their own timelines, and they push themselves also to the very end. So everybody's pushing their bugs or fixes until the very end. And when you put it all together, then you actually get a mix that is maybe not quite as polished as it needs to be. And it's funny because, like, Ubaid, you and I were just talking about the A350.
Yeah.
Maybe you want to talk about this a little bit.
Like Jorg said, I think 2024, and like you said, 2024 was like the most complex simulator we've ever seen. If you think about it, a simulator of what the flight simulator is used to, the sim's so feature rich in what it has, just from a content perspective. Like, so many planes, so many airliners, and we've never had something like that in flight sim before. And from a consumer point of view, as iniBuilds has always been made up of, we started the organization as flight simmers, and for us to have something like this, to be part of something that so great, and to have so much content on release to the degree and quality that was, of course there are bugs, and of course they'll be fixed, but I think from a overall what's being presented here was really cool, and we were super proud to be a part of it. And we're back to it with our 350, pushing
It's a conversation you and I had just the other day.
Yeah. I spoke to Jorg the other day, and huge respect, to manage. I'm struggling to manage my own team, try and get things in the line, and one small fix and can have so many knock-on effects. But there were so many teams that participated. It was truly a community and a Zobo and Microsoft effort. I think everyone's committed to continuing on the standard set and making it better.
800 people. I mean, I don't know if you ever saw it, Jim, it says that, but we made a map of where everybody's at that worked on flights in 2020, and it literally covers the planet with the exception of Antarctica. And I was joking, it's like, hey, maybe we need to hire somebody in Antarctica. We literally were in every time zone, pretty much every country. Like, wow. And just, as I said, like 2020 was made largely with a Zobo in France in a single building, 100-something folks in a single building. Here, 800 folks all across the world, 25 companies. So the level of complexity and everybody did great, actually. So when you look at every piece in isolation, they're like, oh, great. But then you put it all together, and I think there's unforeseen circumstances.
So can we say that you stand behind the idea of involving a big part of the industry in the development of the simulator, and if you were to do it again, you'd still take this approach?
I think so, but I would tell everybody that they need to be done with their code a year before, which takes discipline. And I think, the moment you have a ship date that's public, everybody sort of starts to be smart about that ship date and comes up with their own rules, what's okay, right? But if we can all commit ourselves that there's a public beta, it goes from alpha to beta, and that the code needs to actually really be finished, and we're just focusing on bug fixing for a year, I think this can all work. Going back and making this with a single team, I think would be a mistake, simply because the expertise cannot be that deep in a single team. This is not really possible. Like in this particular case, like a person who comes to mind is Fabio Merlo, who is doing his flight control replay. He has decades of experience making that, and he lives in Italy, so he doesn't want to move to Bordeaux, France. But so if you want to embrace that expertise, then you need to go to where the people are. And in this case, he sits in Italy. So then you just need to say, hey, Fabio, you need to be done a year before launch, and then get feedback, and then really restrict yourself to bug fixing as opposed to feature creeping.
Is there anything you would change in the way you do betas, beside them being longer?
There is a lot of discussions about this right now. Right this moment, we're doing a flighting exercise on Sim Update 1, and it's been really good. Like, so we had, I think, almost 30,000 participants, and we're now to the point where we don't want to release. Like, I was just in a meeting about, are we ready to go? Are we shipping on Thursday? And the answer from most of the producers was, we really want to see the flighting data that comes in today, because that's really what gives us confidence when, we have about 100 testers, we have a few hundred people on the team, we all play it, of course, but then you have 30,000. The confidence goes way up when they all say, good to go, then we are good to go. So that's more, it means something, right? When we did 2020, specifically at the beginning, if you remember, we did a lot of updates very quickly. And what happened then was, yeah, sure, we fixed stuff and we broke stuff at the same time, because you couldn't really Halo test around all the fixes. And the only thing you can do is slow yourself down, get the feedback from people, and just don't overdo it with hitting a date, right? The game industry is very date driven, right? At some point you announce a date, you want to hit the date, you want to be predictable for people. But something like this, where it's much more of a service, it's not as important to hit the date. It's important to get it right. So that's actually the debate we just had on Sim Update 1. We know there's an issue. Do we want to take another build? If it's another build, it's another week, at least. So that is how this goes, right? But why throw something out there if you know there's a problem?
There have been some questions from developers about whether they'll be able to offer MSFS 2024 upgrades of their MSFS 2020 products for free on the official marketplace. Will it be possible?
I'll throw this over to Ubaid, because he is one of them.
Yeah, no, precisely. So our 350 that we're building is one package with the 2020 and 2024. So the way we would propose this is the people who purchase this in 2020 can enjoy the product for free in 2024, and I think that's a really great system that I think Jorg and his team sort of shared early in the year, I think, sort of when they were showcasing what the marketplace, some of these features, purely allowing people to access one product for both sims, for the developers that choose to do that.
Yeah, I mean, I can commit so from the Microsoft products, we're never going to charge an upgrade price. But I'm not in everybody's head, and to some degree, I can't judge what people's what their economic circumstances are. A team wants to upgrade something, and it takes them 4 months, and they feel like it was so much work that they should charge for it. I don't want to be in the way of that. It's ultimately their work. So our marketplace is very much a try to provide a platform so you can reach everybody, including Xbox in particular, and then people need to make their own choices. I mean, companies like iniBuilds, they have their own fans, right? They might, I don't know how many fans you have, 100,000, 200,000, I have no idea. But they need to curate their own fans the way they want to and have their own conversations. That has nothing to do with the marketplace itself. The marketplace itself is just there as a platform that gives options.
That's perfectly understandable. I was asking about the possibility because, for instance, PMDG announced that they would like to give people the MSFS 2024 upgrade for the 777 for free, but they are waiting for Microsoft to confirm that they can.
I would say with great new tools become all kinds of options. I was telling Ubaid that one of our team members was just watching the iniBuilds stream, and I think the team was going on about the cabin, right? And I mean, Ubaid, maybe you want to speak to this just a little bit.
Yeah, no, and I think you to go back to the point of looping in the community. I think looping in the community from obviously Microsoft as a third party perspective was a really great idea because it's allowed them to invest in tools that we've never seen before. So the tools that we've really enjoyed using in 2024, which is why I think the 350 really performs best there, is the modular sim object system. So that system allows much more detail in an aircraft that you've never been able to do before, and without that much of a significant performance decrease. So the whole cabin, the interior of all the exterior walk-around elements, which is a great feature in itself, without that investment from Azobo and Microsoft in those tools within the sim, we wouldn't be able to put a cabin to the detail that we have. And I think it's those areas from a development perspective that we really enjoyed about 2024. Because we wouldn't have been able to do that otherwise, and in turn, customers and consumers benefit.
But then going back to the point that you made,
Yeah.
if people go wild and make that cabin, right, and make every seat belt, and like the back of the screens all work and all this good stuff that you really would love for immersion, if there's a cost associated with it that they need to roll over back to their customers somehow, I think that's okay, I mean, that's up to them ultimately.
The talk about the cabin brings me back to what we talked about in an earlier interview, Jorg. I really think that while we wait for a shared cockpit, you guys need to consider implementing the ability to carry other players as passengers in multiplayer. Ubaid, help me out here. You guys make great cabins, wouldn't you like to see people in them?
Okay, 2 against 1. It's a fun interview. Come on, Ubaid, what do you have to say?
No, I think no, I think it's a cool feature, but I think there are elements like we're getting to that. Like in 2024, we have in the navigation graphs, you are able to have seated passengers and things. So I think we're on a step to getting there. I think but I think exterior walk around as well. Like I don't like from a walk around perspective. I think we're reaching those levels where we can take it forward, and I'm sure like the innovation is not going to stop here. What we've seen in 2024, I'm sure they've got some plans and improvements in place, Jorg, I'm sure.
Shockingly, I was just writing on a PowerPoint deck earlier, and shared cockpit came up, but passengers didn't. So I need to go reread your thing, like the player card passengers. Okay, I heard you.
When you announced the career, many were skeptical, saying, and I don't agree, mind you, that it's too gamey. Yet nowadays I see the same people complaining about the bugs in the career mode, so I guess they've changed their minds and want it now. What are your plans to smooth out the issues in the career?
So the career is more popular than free flight in 2024, interestingly enough. I was just looking at the stats. I think it's close, but I think career is currently ahead with 8 million hours or something. So we look at it on an hour basis, basically. I think that so some of the issues were actually plane related, and simply because Ubaid's team has a fair number of these planes, where there are a couple of things that we didn't explain enough in the SDK, I feel. Like, for example, in the Barren, the people were hanging upside down, and that was a simple fix actually, but it was just not documented, and the team didn't know what to do. So it's now done, and it comes out with sim update 1. So there were just a couple of new things that I think is, I mean, to be perfectly honest, the way we split up our own testing, I think was probably not quite right. We have testers that are specialists for aircraft. They're called pilot testers, and they test the aircraft functionality. And then we have a completely different test team that plays the career. And but the overlap between the two actually wasn't as large as it needed to be. But for the end consumer, of course, it is a complete overlap, because an experienced simmer who knows planes inside out will play the career. So we've made changes internally to actually catch this. And it's the newness of it. Like, there hadn't been such a thing before. And again, like, I think we have a much better SDK documentation than we've ever had, but it's still not perfect, right? And we're asking all of our partners to give us feedback. If I have anything to say, I would say, if you talk to the community in your write-up, please give us more feedback on dev support, because that we only have two channels, right? We have what we think of as first-party developers like Ubaid and his team, or Godfriends or Coronado, whoever, and they write us feedback, and then we have Discord channels and whatnot to actually have dialogue. For everyone else, we don't. And then we have dev support, which is our methodology to go ask devs, what issues are you running into? And I think I heard from the team, while there's always a lot to do, they would still like to get more feedback if possible.
At this point in time, many simmers are still on MSFS 2020. What are your plans to encourage them to move over to MSFS 2024? Are you okay with people staying on an old sim, or you'd like them to move over ASAP?
When we started all this back in 2016, I was surprised how many people were still in flights in 2002, so 14 years later. And then 2020 came out, and then it was also surprising to see how many people were still on FSX, and 2002 and 2004. And there's still people playing those sims, and they are happy. And so if people are happy, great. There's nothing wrong with being happy. That's what we want. So I think, generally speaking, our ambition for flights in 2024, and I said that publicly many times, that it's the best consumer flight simulator ever made. And I would just kindly say it's the best consumer flight simulator ever made, with the asterisk, and it has too many bugs. So that's on us. We need to fix the bugs. Once it's the best consumer flight simulator, I think simmers are smart. They will go move wherever they think they want to spend their time. I think over time, there were reasons why we did 2024. They're not predominantly economic reasons at all. It was 2020 was starting to break. We couldn't really add to it anymore, right? We had 5,000 add-ons. The downloads were crazy long. Install was way too long. Stability was not what we were fighting for stability all the time, while encouraging third-party add-on makers to be at freedom to make their creations. But that is why we needed to do the thin client. That is why we needed to do an all-new LOD system, because it was not going to work anymore. So, and I think that comes with learning, that comes with new things, and it takes just an adjustment period. Ubaid's team, for example, has a little bit of a head start because they worked with us for, I don't know, 2 years on such things. And other people need to go understand it. It takes time, specifically the LOD system. Once you get it, you see that it's better, but it's different. It's sort of a paradigm shift in a way. And so I think people will come whenever they feel the time is right for them. And I said that before, we will update 2020 to at least to some degree. Like I always said, let's do a sim update, and we're actually planning on one right now because we have a pretty significant memory improvement. So we'll update it, but not at the same degree as 2024, of course. Like, so 2024 is our current focus. Doesn't mean it's our only focus, but it's our focus. And I think the delta between the two sims will get greater over time.
I don't think everyone understands that MSFS 2024 and the changes it brought were inevitable, because you guys were running out of room to continue to evolve flight simulation.
Yeah, I mean, people want more and more. That's the problem. People, the simmers, we're all in pursuit of this mythical perfect sim, right? All of us have been in this space for a long time. And what you want is greater detail, more accuracy, more authenticity, just more, and to pursue. That's the actual dream of the hobby, I think. So And people did that. So when I look at when we started 2020, yeah, we set up a marketplace. Why did we set up a marketplace? We talked to third parties and they said, hey, it would be great if you guys had an instant marketplace. We had absolutely no idea there would be 5,000 add-ons 4 years later. Like we are still, I mean, I think it's 5-6x larger than we thought it would be. And then you look at our stuff, just the things we put into Flight Sim 2024. If you would have downloaded this, it's 1.5 terabytes. And if you take all the add-on stuff, I think it's another 5 to 6 terabytes. That's no longer trivial numbers, right? Even though, yeah, memory is cheap and you can buy external hard drives and this, that, or the other, but 6 terabytes, I mean, you think about how long this takes to download. I mean, there's no disk when you can put that on anymore. That doesn't exist. So then you have to download it. And even if you have great internet, Seb was telling me this the other day, he said, if we would have not done the streaming on demand that we have, and we force people to download 1.5 terabyte, it would take a week, just one download once a week. So like it's an unfeasible size. And so I think that's why you're right. It was inevitable to go there simply because the hobby is it's an open hobby. And it needs to be open, right? The last thing anybody wants is you have like some flight sim with 20 planes and you can't ever add anything to it. I think then the hobby really takes significant innovation hit. So here we're the exact opposite. Embrace the community as openly as we can, give them a platform with as good a tools as we can make, and then there's many, many more companies now than there were 4 years ago. I think we're counting. Last I looked was 600, and the amount of output is just incredible, and we all benefit from it. But the platform needs to enable that with some safety. When you said that earlier, oh yeah, stability is important. Yeah, I know. So in order to keep this stable, we need to have a framework that allows this to actually work.
Now that we are a few months in and Sim Update 1 is almost done, what is your level of confidence in the future of MSFS 2024?
The team has already been working on Sim Update 2, hundreds and hundreds of fixes. I think we are, I mean, I don't know if you look at the feedback snapshot ever, right? I find that a useful tool. This is, by the way, another thing I would say to the community, like, please vote. I mean, we're honestly really looking at this. I look at it every day and read the forums every day, and we're prioritizing our workflow quite a bit by what's in that feedback snapshot. So out of the top 120, I think we're currently working on 90 or so. Right, we've prioritized it. And the moment you're through this, it's similar to what we had in 2020. The moment you're through the biggest backlog of things that are really high importance for a lot of people, then I think you're in a stable state. And I'm confident that by Sim Update 3, we are good to go and can talk about new cool features like passengers.
You did mention that you have some surprises coming. Is there anything you can tease about them?
Are you one of those guys that opens Christmas presents before Christmas? Like he's, come on now.
As a matter of fact, yes. And I watched the ending of TV series before I decide if it's worth watching the whole thing.
Yeah, I think it's cool stuff. Like we have a lot of neat things coming.
Okay, let me reframe the question. Are they comparable to the surprises we got for MSFS 2020? Because these were cool.
Yeah, for sure. Oh yeah, I'm excited for what's coming, for sure. But I just want to say, because this is a joint interview, I just want to say I'm so excited about the 350. I can't even tell you, because I think it's one of the best things ever. If you go back in the hobby, this is close to the dream, right? This is like a near perfect execution of a plane that we hadn't had to this level of detail before. And I just want to say that companies like iniBuilds exist and put so much effort into something like this is really awesome.
When I interviewed you in Arizona, I asked if you were willing to bring the simulation to the PS5. And since then, there have been rumors about it, and even about the Switch 2. I'm not gonna ask you to confirm or deny, because I know you can't, but it'd certainly be interesting to fly on a portable platform.
You know what's interesting to me is that I was reminiscing about this not too long ago. That remember Sublogic? I think so I didn't play those because I was a little bit too young still, but I think they came out on 10 platforms. And I thought it was interesting just to reflect on this. Like it was because somebody sent me a Atari ST version and somebody else sent me an Amiga version. I have the Macintosh version up there, right? I personally had a Commodore 64 back in the day, and there was a Commodore 64 version. So I thought it was just interesting how the sim was born. The birth was actually that way. And so I thought it was just because I read that too, like, oh yeah, it's coming to this and that and the other. I'm like, okay. but I'm I'm very I always said I feel we said that at the very first Global Preview event. We feel like we're standing on the shoulders of giants. That's what we said, and it's very much true. That flight simulation was started 44 years ago now by Bruce and his team, and I think there's a lot to be learned from that, even from that time still, how what the focus was, because it's very much focused on the simulation precision as opposed to graphics. Because you sometimes can get a little bit confused about what's actually critically important. Everybody wants everything, but in the end of the day, the core simmers want realism, authenticity, and accuracy. And so I sometimes go back and look at that. And so in that, I acknowledge that it used to be a multi-platform thing. And then somehow, I don't even know why, after 86, it was PC only for a long, long time until we did the Xbox SKU. But everybody said that's impossible. Can't put this on Xbox, but we did. And when you look how many people enjoyed on Xbox, I think that warms my heart because, obviously worked on Xbox for a long time. So that means it's not only for the people that have like an awesome cockpit setup with yokes and pedals everywhere. It's also for other people. And I think that makes the hobby stronger and broader. And I think that's a good thing. So I maybe leave it with that. Yeah, I mean, I think the more the better because it brings energy into this. And I would say I was looking at the Navigraph thing not too long ago. It makes me happy when I see how many, what was it? 10-year-olds? 10-year-olds, I think was the first category, was like 10-year-olds. And I go to places, we met there. I mean, we go to places like Gamescom. Did you see who was standing in line for Flight Sim? They were all like 10 to 15 years old. That's the future. That makes me happy. That more than anything makes me happy.
This is definitely interesting for me as someone invested in helping new generation learn about flight simulation. I go to school to evangelize flight simulation, mostly middle and high schools and more rarely elementary schools. Geography teachers love it. When I started with 2020, kids were very impressed. But around late 2023, they started telling me the sim didn't look so great anymore and other games looked better. So maybe the graphics aren't so irrelevant after all, at least if you want to draw in new and young blood. You have to make a strong visual first impression.
Oh, I think it's a very important attractor for new audiences. And I think simmers, I mean, we obviously did a bunch of interviews and talked to a lot of simmers before we ever launched 2020. And they all said, look, the most important thing for us is that the simulation is good. But why does Forza look so awesome in Flight Sim? So I was like, yeah, well, okay, we'll work on this. But yeah, I mean, I think that it's it's going to be interesting, right? So when is the graphic curve actually at an end? Because I can tell you, like we are now sitting there making videos and screenshots. In 2020, it was very easy for us to say, it's from the game. Because there was the little halo effect on the outside and blah, 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 blah. In 2024, I mean, it's sometimes not at all trivial to actually figure out, is this real or not? So I think we're getting there with the realism of it all. And then we can focus on other things. Like I think there's lots of areas to still explore. I mean, it's the perfect sim is probably unattainable, but the pursuit of it is a great chase to go after it.
One of the big topics in which many would like to see improvements is ATC. Anything you can share on that front?
Yeah, I know. I'm impressed what the Say Intentions guys are doing. Like we obviously look at it and play it and talk about it, and one day, no doubt.
What is your attitude towards this? Do you think third parties are doing so well that you can leave it to them, or do you have plans to improve default ATC at some point?
My attitude is that right now we have to fix the things that impact people negatively, and that comes through the feedback snapshot, and that needs to be our sole focus. Like the team wants to do all kinds of new features and has all kinds of ideas. I'm like, guys, seriously, no. we're focused on we're fixing the issues that people are pointing out to us, and let's just not get carried away with new cool ideas. We can do that later. And then after that, and I kind of at this point where with say intention stuff, I think it's a I mean, I know there's others beyond ATC and all that, so not just to say one. I think they're doing really interesting things, and I think that just means you can't uninvent something. So once there is an invention, that's a new possibility, and then we need to figure out when do we actually want to go and do something on our own that either gets close to that or even exceeds it, whatever. But it's not now, so I think we'll talk about this a few years from now. I mean, I can tell you some people on the working title side are currently working on improving the ATC that we have because it has some issues, and that's coming. There's some sim update 1 stuff, some sim update 2 stuff, and I think we're running out of those bugs. I don't think there's very many left. And then we'll probably take a look again after that. Like I said, my horizon is sim update 3. My wish is that we all see each other at the expo, and we can have a drink, and we have a perfectly stable platform that everybody says, hey, I know there was a rocky turbulent start, it's all fixed, and now we have a platform that we wanted. Awesome, let's look towards the future. I think that is my hope.
So would you say that you're confident that by Sim Update 3 the simulator is going to be in good shape?
I think it's happening now already. So if you play if you played 1, the beta, you see that it's quite a bit better. And then I don't know how many things we're going to fix, but definitely hundreds, if not thousands, in Sim Update 2. At which point it's going to be harder to find anything obvious. And then Sim Update 3 is for me really a polished thing. Let's just really go deep into what we call CEF3 Pri 3 bugs, and go and polish everything else that people have been saying or seeing. And then I think my secret hope is that we'll sit there at the expo, we give a little presentation, and we talk about future things instead of issues.
Before we wrap up, do you two have anything else you'd like to share?
Thank you so much for Jorg for having me, and obviously yourself, Giuseppe. Really appreciate it. Without 2024 and the new tools, as I mentioned, some things I wanted to mention as well, like the faster loading times and the instant dev tools, has made the 350 what it is. It's evident that the community are really excited for it. Hopefully we can deliver this beautiful plane, and we'll keep working hard on it. It's releasing this week. There's a big significant update already in the works for free as part of the product. And we're going to keep adding to it and improving it as the sim gets better, and the plane, we'll add more things into to make it the best experience possible. And without the support from Microsoft, this wouldn't be possible, right? To making such a cool simulator. So thanks to everybody, and hopefully the community can enjoy.
I want to thank you for the way you reported. I think was always great, Giuseppe. Like I go to your site every day again, and it's impressive how much is there beyond even flight sim. It's like, wow, you're a busy man. But I think the way you reported the launch and the memory consumption issues and the videos you made, just know that the team saw all that, and it really appreciates the calmness and the objectivity with which you approach that stuff.
Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this interview, please subscribe, like, and perhaps leave a comment. That's always helpful to our growing channel, and much appreciated. Also, don't forget to check out Simulation Daily's website for daily news and commentary about simulators and gaming. Stay tuned for more very soon.